What's going on, everyone? I hope you guys have all been having an amazing Friday, but I wanted to go ahead and recap my trades as usual and let you know exactly how it went for me today, so let's jump right into it. I do want to apologize for not posting a video on the channel yesterday. My brother was the one that traded and he was actually down about 1.7%, right, or $170, and I did want to be completely honest with you guys, right? But he actually didn't get the chance to go ahead and film a recap, but that's why I was the one trading today, right? He wanted to actually focus on trading on a paper account today, and so given that, I wanted to go ahead and trade on the main account. But yeah, I just wanted to make you guys aware of that and be completely honest. And as we can see from the screen, right, today was finally a green day on my account overall, right? We were having a tough, really 2 past weeks, right, where we've been red, pretty much daily almost. And so it's nice to finally see some green for once. And as far as how I did day trading wise, I only traded SQs and TQs, right? Just as usual. And I made $62 on TQs and I lost about $20 on SQs. So overall, I finished up about 0.4% on the day, right? So did not hit my daily goal of 1%, but let me go ahead and recap with you guys exactly what ended up happening. The only, takeaway I do have that I will mention is that, I am trying to make it a big goal of mine to cut down on how many trades I take. Because you guys see, just even from my past videos, I, normally will have hundreds of filled orders. And, I feel like that's trading too impulsively. And I really want to just minimize how many trades I take. And so today I would say was a step in the right direction, at least, right? Only 116 orders. And I know that may sound crazy, right, to some of you who may only have a few orders every day, but that's why I'm trying to work my way down. I feel like it'll definitely improve my trading over the long run, right? Being more selective. So I did want to share with you guys that there. But, as far as what actually ended up happening, as you guys can see, well, this is Tesla here. So let me go back to the NASDAQ, right? Future on the 1 day, 1 minute. What actually ended up happening? Well, the market itself was pretty overbought heading into the market open, right? And what made me think it was overbought? Well, if you take a step back, even the past 5 days, you'll notice, well, anytime we trade around these levels, we tend to get rejected, right? We had an aggressive sell-off on, May 2nd before we ultimately bounced a bit, right? Consolidated pre-market, we were starting to uptrend, and then what ended up happening? Well, we ended up having another big sell-off, right? So we're forming these lower highs and lower lows. And so that's pretty much what I was looking out for if we were going to have a continuation of that, pattern. And so as you guys can see, right, we started climbing during the pre-market session. We were actually, during the pre-market session trading around this general area, right? So we were definitely more overbought in the sense that we were near the top VWAP, right? Anytime this thing would touch the top VWAP, it would get rejected. Right, as you guys can see, we'd approach the top VWAP and get rejected. So we were trading, closer to the top VWAP, at least where it was then. But what actually ended up happening, we got rejected and then started to uptrend. And so heading into market open, that's why I actually, was a little hesitant to even get into TQQQ. I was focusing my attention on SQQQ, and that ended up biting me in the butt, right? As you guys can see, this thing just continuously would ride the EMA up. And so, I got burned on SQs and I ended up learning my lesson and realizing that, because of the fact that we were holding very well above the EMA, right, then it made sense that why this thing can potentially continue to climb, right? Because if I zoom out, right, we were trading around these levels during the pre-market session heading into market open. And so in my opinion, looking back in hindsight, it was a little naive of me to think that, I was going to be able to predict where this thing was going to eventually sell off, right? What I should have done was realize that this thing was continuously holding above the EMA, which it was. And on top of that, there was definitely more room to gap up, right? The resistance levels it's been experiencing is right around these general areas, right? And so if this thing, is starting to get rejected around here, that doesn't mean, that, oh, it's going to for sure continue to sell off the way it did, right? We still have room to gap up before we actually approach the resistance it had. So that's where I definitely made a mistake there. But once I did get burned enough a bit on SQs, I did realize ultimately that it was going to be my best interest to continue to ride with the momentum on the way up, and that's what I ended up doing, right? I actually was waiting for a bit of a pullback, and so actually on this pullback here is where I made majority of my money. So as this thing ended up pulling on back and started to show signs of another, potential leg up here, that's when I started to get into TQs. I averaged up completely, started to cut it as we approached the top VWAP, and just that trade alone, right? I was able to make on TQs for the most part, about $50 to $60, right? And so that was, my one good trade of the day. But I did get burned trying to predict the SQ's reversal, right? And that didn't actually end up happening. As you guys can see, we ended up climbing all day. If I, rather than try to predict where this thing was going to reverse, if I focused on direction, right, and realized that we had more potential to gap up before we approached these resistance areas, then, that could have allowed me to make more money on TQs. But I personally feel that around these levels, it was definitely really overbought, right? We did end up breaking past the resistance it did have here, right? But we are just at a general area, not even the past 5 days. If you guys look at the past, on the bigger time frame, the past 6 months, what you'll notice is we'll tend to push up and we'll have some sort of correction right before we ultimately make a new high, right? We'll correct ourselves, push up. And so now that we have pushed up and are starting to consolidate, right? We're not really making any new highs. If anything, we're experiencing a really strong resistance right around this area, right? And so this thing could definitely end up pulling on back. Doesn't mean it has to. It could also continue to, run, right, and break this resistance that it's been having. But we just need to see ultimately what ends up happening, right? It's at a pretty critical point, and so we are going to follow up with it day by day, right, starting on Monday. But that's pretty much everything I did want to talk about in today's recap. I did also want to mention that, as far as why we actually had such a big green day, it was Tesla. As you guys can see, I was up over, $200 on the day on Tesla, and it's because of the fact that it was up over 5%, right? It's trading at over $170 a share now, which is absolutely amazing to see, right? On the bigger time frames, this is how it's looking. It's, having a little bit of a support and, starting to pop. So that's, obviously nice to see. But as far as why it's actually trading higher on the day, right? I was reading a few articles and they were pretty much saying that they raised the prices of the Model S and X in China. And the reason why the Tesla reacted positively is because of the fact that as far as from what I was reading, there aren't really any competitors that were in the Model S and X price range, right? Not too many competitors that would actually, take some market share away from Tesla, from Tesla's Model S and X, right? And so because of that, they were able to raise their price a bit more and not experience, any type of negative catalyst. It actually ended up, boosting the stock price up. But that was nice to see overall. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in. I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your day and weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday for next week's recap. Take care.